What's up, guys? Welcome back to Daddy Dimes Radio. Today we're here with episode 19, starting off with our MLB playoff outlook.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and as the MLB starts to wind towards its close here, it's time to take a look at what the playoffs are looking like for the American and National Leagues, and then we'll give you guys little predictions. In the American League, the division leaders are I believe it is the New York Yankees, the Cleveland Guardians, and the Houston Astros, who are likely going to be locks. The Rays could catch up to the Yankees to take that division spot, but either way, then the Yankees will make the wild card. Then in that wild card race right now, there's three teams extremely close to vie for those two spots, with then Baltimore and Chicago trailing. Of course, Baltimore being that surprise story that everybody loves to see, even when they traded away some of their players at the trade deadline, they remained and continued winning. So then currently the two wildcard teams would be the Tampa Bay Rays and the Seattle Mariners, with the Toronto Blue Jays one game behind the Mariners, and 1.5 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays. Then Baltimore is 5.5 games behind the Rays, who are in first place. So Baltimore, even though we would have loved to see it, very likely not going to make it, and their end of the season stretch has not helped them. While those first three teams are above 500, Baltimore has been 4-6 in their last 10. So we're just going to say the American League is going to be Yankees, Astros, Guardians, Rays, and Mariners. Who do you think are the two teams that make it to the American League Championship?
I think it's going to be the Rays and the Yankees.
Two division rivals. I think personally, I would say probably Rays Astros is what I'm thinking. But Yankees Rays definitely viable as well. Just the Yankees have been struggling here towards the end of the season, but of course, they're probably the most talented team in baseball other than the Dodgers. And then in your case, who would you think coming out of that to make it to the World Series, Rays or Yanks?
I think with the Yanks have been playing the way, even though they are super talented, I think they're going to make it, like I said, to the championship for the American League, but I think the Rays are going to win it and go to the World Series.
I think in my case, if I had the Rays versus Yankees, I would pick the Rays over them. But in my case, Astros versus Rays, I think Astros make it to the World Series again this year, and have a chance to redeem themselves after their cheating scandal in 2017. And then down to the National League, where the division leaders are the New York Mets, the St. Louis Cardinals, and the LA Dodgers, with the wildcard teams being the Atlanta Braves at a lock to make it pretty much, and then the Phillies, Padres, and Brewers all in contention for that final spot, with the Phillies in the lead right now, but Padres just behind them. What are your thoughts on the National League wildcard teams, Braves, Phillies, Padres, Brewers? Any particular thoughts?
I think the Padres, if they do make it to the World Series, they would have a lot better chance of winning it if they had Tatis. So I don't think that the Padres I think they might have a shot of making it
to the World Series or to the playoffs?
To the World Series.
So
if they go on a winning streak and everybody plays well, but I do not think they have a chance to win the World Series. But I think the Braves are going to be a serious contender, and I think the Braves might win the World Series. this year.
Of course, Braves won it last year as well. So you think then that the Padres will make the playoffs?
Yeah.
And then, so we'll say then, since you think that, I mean, it's obviously going to be very close with them in Philadelphia, both of them in very hard divisions at the top. But the Phillies do have teams like the Nationals and Marlins, but the Padres, their worst team is the Giants, just below 500, as well as the Diamondbacks at the same record. I guess there is the Rockies too. Anyways, I guess we could look at their schedules real quick. Let's see what San Diego has remaining. So let's see. All right. So they got some series against Mariners, which will be tough. Then Diamondbacks, which they should be able to get some wins. They'll need those wins. Cardinals, Rockies, Dodgers, White Sox, Giants. And now let's just compare that to the Phillies real quick. And honestly, I think it's just going to come down to who has the harder schedule. I think both these teams are fairly even. Phillies will have the Marlins, Braves, Blue Jays, Braves again, Cubs, Nationals, Astros. I think the Phillies probably have a little bit of an easier schedule. The Astros series is just 3 games. Of course, they will have 7 games against the Braves, which they could honestly go 0-7, which is extremely unlikely. But with having teams like the Nationals, Cubs, and Marlins, it's going to be close. I would take the Phillies. Are you sticking with the Padres?
Yeah.
All right. We'll give it to the Padres then, I guess, just to be nice. So then let's go over who we think will be in that National League Championship with the teams we're saying going to be in it, being the Dodgers, Cardinals, Mets, Braves, and Padres.
For the National League Championship,
what 2 teams will be in there?
I think it's gonna be the Braves and the Dodgers.
Oh yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that. Of course, Cardinals, a team that everybody's going to really like this year with Goldschmidt and Pujols, which we'll talk about both those players in a minute. And then, of course, the Mets are extremely talented. But the Mets in the past couple of years have had a tendency to not win the big games. And the Braves did exactly that last year. And they beat the Dodgers to get into the World Series. And I think that will be that National League Championship again, just like you said, Braves versus Dodgers. This year, though, I'm going to have to go with the Dodgers, who basically stole the Braves' best player that helped beat them last year, Freddie Freeman. Who do you think will come out of that one?
This is a really tough decision since they're both really good teams. But I think it's going to be the Dodgers, maybe. I don't know. Because they like you said, Braves don't have Freddie Freeman anymore. I'm saying Atlanta Braves.
All right. And then let's just go over some quick MLB news with Albert Pujols tying Alex Rodriguez for the 4th most home runs ever in the MLB, hitting his 696th career homer a few nights ago, his 17th of the season, which has been a very good bounce-back season for him since rejoining his old team, the Cardinals. What are your thoughts on big old Albert?
I think he's such a great player. Yeah, like you said, a good bounce back since he's gone to the Cardinals, and I think he is gonna get like 5 more
this season. So you think he'll go on a bit of a spree here at the end?
Yeah.
I think he could definitely do that, including the playoffs. I don't know about regular season. I mean, it's definitely possible with his talent, but the past couple years before we joined the Cardinals, he's been very weak, as we know. Now I have another question for you. Do you think Pujols will go down as a top 10 player in MLB history?
I think he will.
I have to disagree. I mean, I'm not going to go through the list right now, but I mean, just MLB, there's so many different players that people think is the GOAT. Well, in other sports, it's basically in basketball and football, it's basically Tom Brady and then LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Well, MLB, you have Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, all these players that are clearly ahead of Pujols because people think they're the GOAT, and Pujols obviously isn't where near the GOAT. So I'm not going to go through the list right now, but I don't think he's a top 10 MLB player of all time.
Well, moving on to Goldschmidt, now just two behind. He's just 2 homers behind Schwarber, and now leads Alonso by 1 for RBIs.
Yeah, so we've been talking about Goldschmidt's Triple Crown race. Of course, the biggest feat possibly in all of sports, the Triple Crown. Miguel Cabrera was the last to do it back in, I believe, 2012. And when we last talked, he was very much in the lead for batting average, which he still is, but he trailed Alonso by a couple, or no, maybe he was tied, I think, actually, for RBIs, but now leads Alonso, and I think he can hold on to that. And he was 3 homers behind Schwarber, now just 2, but he's starting to run out of time. I really hope he can do it because he's always been one of my favorite players since his Diamondback days, and it'd just be crazy to see him do that. Let's go ahead and move on to our football recaps. Starting it off with the college football games yesterday.
So yesterday we had 4 overtime games with Tennessee beating Pitt, Texas Tech beating Houston, and Kansas beating West Virginia, and BYU beating Baylor in double overtime.
Yeah, 2 of those being 2 top 25 ranked teams, with Tennessee 24 ranked team beating 17th ranked Pittsburgh, and then the 9th seeded Baylor losing to, I don't know, maybe like 22nd ranked BYU in that double overtime game. And then Houston was ranked number 25. Now will definitely be out of those rankings after losing to Tech. And then KU upset West Virginia, as KU is just terrible at everything. But surprising to see them battle back after being down early to West Virginia and force overtime, where they would then go on to win it. That one I think might have gone to double overtime as well. Then yesterday we also had some major upsets, with Marshall beating Notre Dame to send them to 0-2 after they lost to Ohio State last week. Then Appalachian State beat Texas A&M. And then in a less of an upset, but still a major one, Wisconsin loses to Washington State. All of those close games, but the upset team, the Cinderella team, able to hold on. Any thoughts of any of those games in particular?
I think Notre Dame, the way that they're starting off the season is not a good way. Of course, you can't really blame them for losing to Ohio State, since Ohio State is just such a good football team. But I think they need to pick up the start of the season. Otherwise, it may continue to be like this for the rest of their season.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely clearly out of the college football playoff now. Same with Texas A&M. Unless they possibly go undefeated and win the SEC, then you could make a case if they beat teams like Alabama and Georgia. But Wisconsin, who didn't really have a chance to make the college football playoff in the first place, but that just hurts their record when they have to play in one of the best conferences in college football. And then just some other game overviews. In another matchup between 2 top 25 ranked teams, Kentucky beat Florida 26-16.
Alabama beat Texas 17-16 to avoid an upset after Texas lost Quinn Ewers early, and he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. And backup QB Card played through a leg injury the rest of the game.
Yeah, obviously, if Ewers had not got hurt, I think Texas wins this game because their offense was definitely struggling throughout the game, and they had a lot of missed opportunities. But then a great game for Card by playing through that leg injury. And even if Ewers went out, if Card had a healthy leg the whole game, I think Texas wins as well too. Just their offense was not going at all.
Still staying on that game, Bryce Young had a phenomenal 1-minute drive at the end. Their team was down by 2. He had to get there, and he was able to move their team upfield. Such a good player. I just wanted to put that out there. And then Arkansas beat South Carolina 44-30.
Yeah, just one more thing on Bryce Young real quick. I think he's going to repeat as a Heisman winner, and I'm not sure. I don't think that's ever been done. I doubt it, but that would just be absolutely crazy. But he carried Alabama to that win yesterday. And then let's move on to the NFL with more close games and a bit of a wild day for kickers all over the NFL. The Colts and the Texans get the first tie of the season in week 1. Great job by the Texans to simply not lose to their division rival and the much stronger Colt team. Rodrigo Blankenship, the kicker for the Colts, missed a huge game-winning field goal for them, and Houston was able to get the win. And then in another game that narrowly avoided the tie was Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh, which was an absolutely wild game with a wild ending. In the middle of the game, Joe Burrow had 4 interceptions and he fumbled the ball, which Pittsburgh would recover. But at the end of regulation, so at the very end of the game, Cincinnati's down by 6. They score a touchdown, tie it up. Evan McPherson goes out with their backup long snapper, snaps a little off, takes too long. Minkah Fitzpatrick blocks the extra point, sends it to overtime. In overtime, I think Pittsburgh got the ball first. Cincinnati held them and then drove down the field. Evan McPherson gets another attempt. Snap is high. They get it down before it gets blocked. But McPherson's kick is extremely wide left. And then the two teams would battle it out for the rest of overtime before Chris Boswell kicked a 53-yard field goal to win it. Though I forgot to mention, a few minutes before that, he had another game-winning field goal attempt that went off the side of the post for a doink. Just a crazy game. And then that about wraps up that game.
The Saints beat the Falcons by 1, 27-26, after blocking Ku's 63-yard field goal attempt as time expired.
Another kicking thing, the second blocked one, and technically just another missed field goal near the end of the game. And we'll talk about a big made one here in a minute. The Bears pulled off the upset against the 49ers 19-10 with a great second half, which knocked Levi out of our Survivor game that we put our predictions in for last week. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute as we get to some other games.
The Eagles hold off the Lions' comeback to win 38-35.
Jalen Hurts had a great game for the Eagles. DeAndre Swift, great game for the Lions, but it was not enough offensively. Dolphins easily beat the Patriots and the Jets. There's so much to say about those games, except the Dolphins looking strong and taking that kind of second spot in that division. Patriots is what it's looking like.
And the Washington Commanders hold off the Jags 28-22.
Great game by Carson Wentz with his new team to carry them to that win over Jacksonville. And then the Browns beat the Panthers 26-24 on rookie kicker Cade York's 58-yarder to win it. And that was our dad's pick for the Survivor. He picked the Browns to beat the Panthers, got lucky with the Browns kicker to get that win.
The Giants upset the Titans 21-20, and Saquon is back with a huge day.
Saquon went off, and it's great to see him doing well again. And that was my Survivor pick, was the Titans to beat the Giants, putting both me and Levi out and basically giving our dad the win in week 1. So basically we're going to restart, give our dad a win, a restart for the rest of the season. So now for week 2, our dad picks the Packers over the Bears, which of course the Packers are obviously the more talented team with that great defense and Aaron Rodgers. But they're coming off a blowout loss to the Vikings, and the Bears are coming off their upset win over the 49ers that lost Levi his survivor. Levi, go ahead and tell him about your pick.
My pick is the Washington Commanders are gonna beat the Lions.
Care to explain?
Well, I think the Commanders have a very good team. The Lions may also have a good team, but I think the Commanders are gonna pull out the win.
I picked the Broncos over the Texans, which of course the Broncos are a bit of a question mark because they don't play till tomorrow, which makes this pick very hard for me, especially after the Texans played well today against the Colts. But I'm sticking with the more talented team here and getting the Broncos out of the way since they're such a question mark team right now should help down the road when I could have picked a bigger upset with some other games. Continuing our recap, like I said about the Packers, the Vikings easily beat them. Justin Jefferson had a tremendous game.
The Chiefs dominate the Cardinals 44-21.
And the Chargers hold off the Raiders battle in the AFC West, the hardest division in football. It's looking like if the Broncos live up to expectations, they win 24-19. And then real quick, let's just get a live score check for the Buccaneers versus Cowboys Sunday Night Football kickoff. Buccaneers up 12-3 at halftime here with Tom Brady and Leonard Fournette off to good starts for Tampa Bay. Any thoughts for the rest of that game?
I think the Buccaneers are going to pull away with this dub pretty easily. I think the Cowboys are not going to have a super good season. I think they're just going to have an average season and lose in the first or second round of the playoffs.
I agree. And that'll be the